And again, we've got that tiny piece through here and here that are hard to select, so I'm just going to select around them and then deselect the ones that I don't want. And that's good, up to that edge. Again, I'm going to create another selection set just in case I accidentally deselect what I already have. That way I can just reload it again. Looks fine. Stretch my back a bit. And again, I'm just box selecting here, so because it's very hard for me to get in there to click that small edge in there. Alright, so just one more corner here to do. Let's do these final edges here along the bottom. I'm not going to do the very bottom edge. And again, I know doing these sort of things is really boring and really fiddly and a bit annoying, but you really don't want to have any hard edges on an object, particularly like a column that will be worn over time. We'll get weathering and wearing happening on it. And like I said, you only have to do it once, and then you can copy the modifier across all of the objects you want that are identical. So, all right. Let's just quickly run around here and make sure I've selected everything I need to. I missed a corner there. And now I'm going to turn off our edged faces so I can see exactly what I have selected a little bit more easily. One last pass to make sure we have everything correct. And I haven't accidentally selected anything by mistake as I was selecting lower parts. That looks good. That looks fine. I'm checking these edges here now. That looks fine. To make sure I have the right edges selected. Okay. Okay. Now, looks like there may be an edge here that I really should select as well. That's this one that runs along the top. That's what I mean, turning off our edged faces can really help you see anything like that you may have missed. Looks like I forgot there as well, so this top edge. Oh. Right. I think we're good now. I think we have everything selected that needs to be done. Again, let's create a selection set. And let's throw a modifier on top now. I want to pull it right back. Now. We have all sorts of nasty going on here, so let's just have a look. Why has it done that? Stack. We'll go to a standard chamfer instead of a quad chamfer here. No. Maybe not. There's something it doesn't like. I'm not sure exactly what the problem here is. Maybe because the model was actually made up of 4 pieces. It's got a hole in the middle, as you can see. That could be causing a problem, I think. Alright. Let's do it another way. Let's get rid of that. Let's see if we can do it through the modifier. Well, I have a feeling that's the problem. The problem is the model's made up of 4 pieces instead of one block, that which is the way I normally create a column. That's not going to work for us, so looks like I missed an edge here as well. So that wouldn't help. Come on, move out of the way. Thank you for the follow on Twitter. I'm also going to actually remove these corner pieces, I think. I'm going to jump into my side viewport here. And I'm going to remove those very top edges. Just in case that's causing a problem for the modifier. You never know. It may be. Same thing through here. Because I'm in a side viewport, I should be deselecting both sides at the same time, so. I think there's another one down the bottom that I want to remove through here. And on this side just here. Let's try that again. Again, we'll throw a modifier on top. We'll try it that way first. I don't think it's going to work for us. No, it's not. Alright. Okay, let's do it another way. Let's create a selection set here called all. And now we have this all selection set that will select, that has everything that we have there at the moment. I'm going to jump into my side viewport here and I'm going to deselect all of that. So I've only got the top part selected here. Let's try and do a modifier that way to begin with. Yeah, let's try the modifier. So I want to see if it is actually those 4 pieces. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, because when we made the model, or when I made the model, I made it in 4 sections. I can't throw a normal smooth on this, so select everything. So we'll go into object mode here. I don't think this is actually going to give me what I want. No. Not turbo smooth, mesh smooth. I'm just trying to find a different way to get some smoothing happening, considering we can't bevel the edges. It's not going to work for us either. We may just have to leave them hard edged, which is not ideal, really not ideal. But I have a feeling to do it we'd have to either recreate the column as one object or split it up. Let's just exit isolation mode for a minute because I want to check the model itself and see how noticeable it's going to be. What we're going to do, I think, is leave it for the moment, and I'm going to have to probably, when I take it into view to do the render, I'll check it then, or when I take it into Max 2016 to do the occlusion renders for the model in V-Ray, I'll check it then as well, see if it looks noticeably hard edged. And if it does, then I'll have to either recreate the column or break it up in some way that I can smooth out those edges. Because we didn't have a problem with the top ones, it's only these larger ones here. And again, it's because the column is made up of 4 sides that have been attached. It's not one mesh. I think that's just creating a bit of a problem for the modifier when it comes to smooth those edges. So we're going to leave it for the moment. We'll wait until we do some renders and see how noticeable it is. In an ideal world, and the best of, you really should smooth those edges out. And I may end up having to do that anyway, I think. And I'll either do that by having to rebuild the column as one mesh or break the mesh up to smooth it. I won't do either at this stage though, because I want to see, like I said, how it renders up. It may be okay. We'll see. What we'll do is we'll paint up this large column, which is the last piece of geometry that needs to be textured. Just going to jump into full screen here. And again, so you see how this column is made up of sections? That's the reason that the modifier is having a problem smoothing the edges, because it's not one piece of geometry, it's many. So isolate the selection here. Yeah, so you can see I've made it up of many different pieces, and it's not a great way to do this. I should have actually made it one mesh, started with a cube and done it that way. That's okay. Like I said, it may be okay. We may be able to leave it, but we'll see when we do a render. So we're going to texture up this column and take it into Mari. So what I'm going to start with is just, am I grouped? I think I am. I'm going to ungroup this. Going to convert it to a mesh, to a poly, sorry, from a mesh. And I'm going to attach all these pieces together. And that's just, I just did that with the attach list here. Instead of hitting attach and doing it bit by bit, that'll just select everything in the scene. Let's exit isolation. I'm going to call this one flat column. I'm going to copy that name so that we can use it for our texture name. I'm going to open up our material editor, and I'm going to assign just a standard grey color texture, which we use as a base, so that when I take it into Mari, it's more easy to see the model to paint on top of. And we use this one here for our base color. And again, I'm just going to throw a UVW map on it as a box, as a base UV mapping. Again, this texture is going to be completely covered, so it's just so that we can see it more easily in Mari, more than anything else. And we have something to render out to texture too. So we've assigned our temporary grey texture here. I'm going to do an unwrap UVW. I'm going to change the map channel to channel 2 and move them across. I'm also going to turn off my seams here. We'll open our UV editor. And I'm going to select all of our UVs and do a flatten mapping. We'll just wait for Max to work that out. Okay. Alright. Now we're going to go render and do a render to texture. And again, for people who've been watching me as I've been texturing this model up, this won't be anything new for you, but just in case there are new people, we're going to change it to map channel 2. We're going to add a diffuse map. We're going to set the texture quite high on this one at 4096. And like I've been saying, you can always reduce it down later if you think it's too big. And I'm going to save it into our rework folder, which is where we've been saving everything. Again, I'm saving it as a target file, but feel free to save it as PNG or whatever you'd like. I think Targa is a good compromise between a lossless and file size. I'm going to call it back column. 24-bit Targa is fine. Okay, we'll render that out. Again, Max is just saying, you haven't told me where you want to put the new map, and I don't want it to put it anywhere. I'll do it manually. The reason we do a flat mapping and a render to texture is so that each UV is not overlaying at all. So be able to paint on it in 3D, you can have any overlapping UVs. Well, you can, but you shouldn't. Usually, you shouldn't. It'll make your job of painting up the model too difficult otherwise. Okay, so we can close our render to texture down. We have our model selected. Before we do anything else though, we have to jump into our channel info and copy our UVs from channel 2 into channel 1. It's going to mess up the UVs there, but we'll fix that in just a minute. Let's clear out channel 2 now because we don't need it. Again, we're going to jump to the very bottom of our material stack here because I worked my way down, and I know the one at the bottom is the last model I worked on. And we're just going to throw down a standard material and load in that bitmap we just rendered to texture. So it's called fat column. So where is that? Right there. We'll just plug that into our diffuse channel, and I always like to turn on show shaded and show realistic. That way it'll show up in our viewport here. I'm going to move that into line. We have our column selected, so I'm just going to assign that material. And you see our UVs pop right back. So now that we have our temporary texture flattened material rendered out, let's export it as an OBJ. And again, we're going to jump into our rework folder. I export as OBJ because I use other software occasionally to do UV mapping, such as Unfold 3D or UV Layout, and they take OBJs. And that's generally why I use OBJ. It's just more of a universal format that more software accepts. But FBX is generally pretty good, and Mari accepts FBX now too, so. Going to call it fat column and save that OBJ out. Okay. Before we jump into Mari now to finish this final texture for this model, I am just going to take a quick break for a few minutes, guys. I want to grab a fresh cup of coffee. My one here has gone a bit cold. This is the last piece of geometry that we need to texture up though. So once we have that textured, we can copy that across to the other side, and we should be done with our texturing. Then we just have to go around the model and fix any small errors in the geometry. Okay. So we've rendered out our large column to texture. Let's take it into Mari and finish off the texturing. I think what I want to do with this large column is pick up the texture that we're using on the smaller column that sits on top, so we get some consistency happening through there. The same way we picked up the blue in the from the banister rails in the supports here, and that texture through there. We'll do the same thing through here. So let's jump into Mari. We'll create a new project. We're calling it fat column. Let's load up the OBJ file that we exported from Max. Again, fat column.obj. I'm just going to change my temporary directory here to my hard drive from my SSD. We're going to create a 4K texture in the color space, in the color channel of the color space. So we have our project name, our OBJ, and our color space here. We'll just wait for Mari to load that up. Alright, now Mari defaults to using shadowed mode here. I'm going to change it to flat shaded because it's easier to paint without any shadowing going on. And you see what I mean by with no texture, it's very hard to see what part of the model you're painting on. That's why we do the render to texture in Max, just with that plain grey color. So I'm going to click on, right click on my color channel here and import into the layer stack. I do love what I do. Dr. Goud. Why do you ask? We'll jump into our stairs folder here. And again, Mari defaults to .tip, so just pop a star in there. And load up that back column.tga, which is the one that we rendered to texture in Max. It looks like it. Are you... well, I hope I love what I do. I mean, I've chosen to do it for a living now for over 10 years, so I wouldn't think I'd be doing it still if I didn't love what I did. You see what I mean by adding a color map, even though we're going to paint over it, just helps you see the model a lot more easily inside of Mari. So even though we went to the trouble of rendering the texture out and we're going to paint completely over this, it doesn't matter because it helps us see what we're doing when we're in Mari, or any 3D paint program for that matter, not just Mari. Let's pull in some texture maps that we're going to be using. And again, as I've been saying, always when you're creating a model like that garden terrace, and you want to keep consistency, don't go throwing too many different texture maps together. It'll just end up looking odd. So you always should stick to the same texture sets. So I'm just going to pull those in. These are the ones we've been using all along for the garden terrace model. Sometimes I can get a bit distracted, like with that edge softening not working. My mind is half thinking about that while I'm doing other things. So my apologies if you think I'm not coming. If you think I'm not enjoying what I do, I do. Because I'm thinking about another thing at the time at the moment. We'll just wait for Mari to finish loading those textures in. I'm just going to pull in one more texture set now, which is our dirt layers that we use to dirty up our textures. So dirt and graffiti, I go to a high resolution version of these textures. I have a low version and a high version because we're painting a 4K texture. Don't choose a low res bitmap like 512K to paint on because it's going to pixelate on you if you're painting a low-res texture bitmap onto a high-res texture geometry, if that makes sense. Oh, good. I'm glad I do. I do tend to zone out a bit when I'm working, so... But like I said to any of you guys, if you have any questions, I do monitor my chat window and I do occasionally glance at it, so if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to, on anything I'm doing that you don't understand, I'm happy to explain, or if you just want any help with 3D in general, if I can, I'm happy to help. But thank you, Dr. Goud. So we've loaded, these are just alpha map textures that we use to create dirt marks on our underlying textures. So let's start with our underlying texture. We're going to throw down a new layer, because remember, always with a new texture, work on a new layer. And we're going to find, this is the texture that we used on that top column, which is what I want to repeat through to the bottom column. Let's wait for Mari. I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to jump back into Max and double check that. Yeah. We want to use this texture again down the bottom. We're going to vary it up and add some more dirt marks, but we want that consistency to run through the model. So let's jump back into Mari. I'm just going to position my model here. At the moment I don't have masking turned on. I've got it turned off. I'm looking directly onto the model. I'm not angling it like that or like that. I want to look directly onto the model at this stage to lay down the base texture. I'm going to zoom the model up till it takes up most of the viewport. That just makes it easier for us to work in. Now I've got to decide how I'm going to lay this texture down. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to use this darker part of the texture at the bottom, this half here, to start at the very top. And then we're going to use this part of the texture to texture up the rest of the base of the model. So let's find an interesting spot here to paint this texture in. And again, what I recommend doing at this stage is to scale the texture up till it just about covers the model underneath. And once you've done this, once you've scaled your model in your viewport and you've scaled your texture to the size of the model, don't change the scale until you've finished doing the underlying texture. It's really important, otherwise you're going to get a mismatch between the bitmap, the look of the bitmap on the model. So keep the scale the same. From now on, now that I'm going to start painting, don't scale the texture up and don't scale your model back or forward, smaller or bigger. Let's position our texture up towards the top here. And also, just make sure your texture is following the model too. So I'm just going to rotate it around slightly, so it's parallel to the model itself. Don't paint on the texture with it on an angle, unless you're going for that effect. Right. So I'm just going to start painting that in. And again, we're working on a new layer here. And remember with Mari to always press the Alt key to bake that down, otherwise if you move your model, you're going to lose that texture position. So let's rotate our model around here to the next side. And again, position it so that you're looking directly onto the model itself. Just going to move my texture over a little bit. Paint that in. And again, Alt key to bake it down. And rotate our texture, and again in Mari I just rotate it by holding the Alt key and the left mouse button. Yeah. Again, position our model so we're looking directly front onto it, well, as best we can anyway. You can hit the number keys 1 to 6 to get a front, top, view, side, that type of thing, if you find that easier than rotating it manually. Again, I'm going to move my texture over a little bit. And again, I'm going to bake it down with the Alt key. Let's do this last side here. You can move your model anywhere on the screen that you like, just don't scale it up or down, that's all. At this stage. And again, we're just going to move my texture here, maybe to this more of the middle of it here, so I don't have so much of those white streaks showing up. Now those 4 dots there, they're going to be noticeably repeating. I'm just going to bake that down, so I'm going to paint them out. Just wait to finish baking. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and the left mouse button and move my texture over a bit here. Not that colour, maybe here. And I'm just going to paint those dots out because I don't want you to notice that we've used the same texture on the entire model, and if I rotate it around, you can see here we've got those 4 dots. That's actually happening because we're getting stretching happening, so we'll fix that in just a minute. So again, I'm not scaling my model up, I'm moving it around in the viewport, but not scaling it back, not scaling it smaller or bigger, and I'm not scaling my texture. I'm going to work from the top and work my way down. And now I'm looking side on to the model here, so both sides at the same time. And I'm doing that so that I can paint across the seam, the UV seam, to make it blend together a bit better. Again, I don't like those dark lines that are showing up. Now let's fix these marks showing here. So I think we will go with probably this darker part of the texture. I'm not worrying about anything below that at this stage. I'm just worrying about this top quarter, I guess you'd call it, maybe third of the column texture. And I'm looking at the corners of the model here. And with this one, let's go with some of the brown, I think. And you can see, I can see my model slightly through the texture here, so I know where I'm positioning it. Break that down. Again, I'm just going to stretch my back a little. I'm going to do the corners and then come back to the center. So again, let's go with some of the darker color, I think, through here. And again, we'll come back and fix those dots that are popping up here and there, that are repeating. And maybe more of the brown, pardon me, brown through here, I think. And again, I don't like these dark marks that keep repeating, so we're going to start blending that in a bit better now. I'm just going to angle my model, so I'm looking edge on, but not too much of an angle, because otherwise you're going to get stretching happening. And again, I'm not scaling the model up, and I'm not scaling the texture up or down either. We'll fix that in just a minute. Again, always remember to press the Alt key to bake it down before you rotate or move your model. Let's start doing something a bit more interesting with these white marks, I think. You have to hit the hay. Enjoy for. Well, thank you, Dr. Gowd. Thank you for popping into chat. I appreciate it. You have a good night's sleep. Okay, with this one, let's remove the white from the model here, I think. Yeah. I don't want white on the edge just here. And the same thing through here. I don't want a bit of white showing up on that edge either, so I'm going to paint that out.